Alrighty, here they come. There we go. Ooh, Becky Fairbanks is in here. Hell yeah. Becky, we should catch up. We haven't chatted in a while. Daniel, you've been catching up with him though, haven't you, as of recently?
Yeah, I talked to Becky not too long ago. We can still help
Yeah,
him out.
yeah, of course
And
we
the
can.
name changed. No more Mike Riddle, just Riddle Construction. Love it.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Let's see here. We've got old Garrett Goldsberry. Goldsy was just on the podcast, everybody. You guys can tune into episode one with Goldsy. Episode two is going to be released in like 10 weeks. Mel, I think we're like 10 weeks out, aren't we? On like from recording to posting.
The while.
Yeah, it's a while. It's a while. Cool. We've got old Chris Murphy. Chris, good to see ya. Love having you in here. John Marquis, that's a name I haven't heard in a while. John, glad you're in here. We should catch up soon. Let's see. Let's see. Rhiannon, thanks for joining. Cool, cool. Tim
Pamela
Sogri.
from Arrow's team. Love that.
Oh, nice. Pamela. It was good catching up with Jake at the old Build Show
Build
Live.
show. Love it.
Yeah. Cool. Howdy. Jeffrey, thanks for coming. Conradi and Son.
Jeff.
Beautiful.
Jeff, we just spoke. It's awesome.
Love it. Love it, love it. Okay, we got 4-4. Mel, what should we usually hit like 50-60% attend rate on these? When should we pick this up? How long should we let this go? Based on our registrants and who's all in here so far.
I would say we're right at about 50% now. So
Okay.
let's get going. I mean, this is going to be recorded, so
Yeah.
if you register for these, you're going to get a copy of the recording.
Oh
And then it
yeah.
also gets posted to our Help Center and YouTube channel. So
Yeah. Beautiful. And actually, that's a good call, Mel. I'm gonna pull this up, everybody, just so that you can find the Help Center if you aren't a frequent flyer in the Help Center. I was actually just going over this with one of our accounting partners. Good morning, Ryan. Um, yes, thank you, Mel. Mel just posted in chat to our Help Center. Guys, if you haven't gone in there, check it out. We have like an entire section on WIP. We obviously put all of our recorded webinars in here. But even more so, we update it regularly just with feature releases. We are going through quarterly business reviews, QBRs. So you might be getting reach out for that. And this is a great way to preface those meetings is just like staying up to date on what we've released and adapted because we do release stuff so often. So we will, I guess I'll just start here with a little walkthrough. For those of you day one adaptive homies, you'll obviously have recognized in the last, I don't know, month or so, the UI update, right? With all of our information over here in the top right, as opposed to the bottom left. But if you just hit the support icon, it'll pop up intercom and you can click on help. And that's going to take you to our help center. Okay. Which is where you'll see webinars at the bottom. We have 4 of them, FAQs, syncing integrations, product releases. I've thought about doing just like a straight up product release webinar recording type thing. Thumbs up in the chat if you want that. Um, just so that it's like just essentially like another medium for you guys to stay up to date with all the features and updates that we're rolling out. Web Tool Academy, you guys get it. End of the pitch. Stay up to date with the Help Center.
Look at you just whipping around the product, Reese. Love to see that.
Yeah, you know what? You know what? It comes with time, comes with tenure, Daniel. You know, there's an old vet over here, you know. Um, but I appreciate the kudos. Everybody, today we are going to be mastering cost plus draws and adaptive. This is going to be a step-by-step walkthrough. As you guys all know, I love the engagement in the chat. So, okay, Taylor, Lauren, Rhiannon, you guys all want, yes, Becky wants it. Okay, cool. I'll start doing these like product release webinars. Um, I love the engagement in here. I'm curious, if this is your first time or rather you haven't done cost plus draws in adaptive yet, and you're like just truly learning what the feature is and how it works, just go ahead and comment a 1. Bang. Okay, we've got some people in here. One, 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 one.
Lots of ones.
Okay. Lots of ones. Okay, beautiful. Sweet. Guys, for just because this is like a lot of people's first time really reviewing the feature, maybe like considering opening up cost plus pricing models to your clients. Um, I would just say, like, to preface this, like what we've done over at Adaptive has made it exceptionally easy to build draw schedules, also known as sworns, also known as schedule of values, also known as G703s. It's a very regional thing, but it's all essentially the same thing. It's showing the budget, how we're invoicing, how we're tracking, how much do we have to go. We'll show you all of this. So we make that very easy, and we also make it very easy to compile and add all of the backup documentation for those draws. Backup documentation meaning proof of cost, proof of receipts. I'm just giving you kind of a preface before we jump in because that's what we're going to be going over. Um, Love it. Jared's an old vet. We might have Jared. We're going to be calling on you. You know, you just got the limelight is on you now. We're going to be calling on you. Um, okay, everybody. So enough ranting. As you know, just the formalities here. Hold Q&A to the end. That doesn't mean you can't chat in questions, but we are going to want to hear from you. So hang tight. We will be sending the recordings, as Mel had mentioned, and they will also be stored in the webinar tile in the Help Center. And then we will be giving you a end of webinar sneak peek. I got to come up with something a little bit more creative for that. Stay until the end for a sneak peek. Okay, cost plus billing in minutes, not days. Truthfully, we have like dozens of recorded testimonials of clients saying you've taken days and weeks of billing processes down to hours. So that's the goal. Kind of a fun one here, and we're going to lean into this a little bit of like how do we actually get our costs in? Sorry, Jared just put in a novel here, and I kind of want to read it. Daniel, you got that? Read that.
I'll read it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. But essentially, with cost plus billing, the important piece is tracking costs. It's just like with a fixed price builder. Fixed price building, cost plus building, it all boils down to tracking cost. But the challenge with cost plus billing is you can't plus what you don't cost. If you don't bill for every dollar that leaves your business, you're missing out not just on the cost, but the markup and margin that carries with that. So we're going to be covering the challenges, the feature overview, the live demo, impact for builders, and the Q&A. Okay. What does the draw creation look like for most builders? A lot of administrative work. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, when I'm talking to builders and like I'll do these elite builder dinners in different markets and we're having conversation, and it's always like there's like 2 or 3 builders that are just like would never touch cost plus, and they're just purely fixed price builders, and the cost plus guys wouldn't touch fixed price. It's always like this standoff thing. Typically, the fixed price guys don't do cost plus draws because they have to chase down their receipts, invoices, timesheets. They have to manage all of it. They have to export all this information from their accounting software if they can get it in accurately. Then they have to recode and categorize manually. They have to build spreadsheets. They have to take all of these exports and then compile them in Adobe for like one buttoned up file with all their costs. Like this huge nightmare. And that's where these days of the process start happening. It's very labor intensive. It's really, again, like it's pretty self-explanatory, but I think the bigger ones to highlight here are bullet 2 and 3, which is going to be not only just bullet 1, which is missed time. I mean, you've got to think of like, what is the cost of me actually billing my client? That's going to be all the labor, all the man hours from everyone involved. But the 2 big ones, missed billables and draw rejections, is going to be costs that we did not invoice for, and receipts is a component of that. But I just did a podcast with Mark Williams, controller. I don't know if you guys know Mark Williams. If you don't, you should follow his podcast, Builder or Curious Builder. Point being, I just did a podcast with his controller, and they had mess ups, 5-6 figure mess ups of missing multiple invoices, not billing clients, having to go back. It's a nightmare. The incomplete backup and the draw rejections, that's kind of like a byproduct of missing these billables, but also just with banks and clients. That's adding time. If we send them a draw package that's erroneous and they catch it and they want that detail, then it has to go back through this process and we have to go through this big motion to get it done. But that's also going to lead into no visibility. Okay. They all affect cash flow, profitability, and trust with lenders and clients. So that's why this is just extremely crucial to do it right from the jump because we're going to insulate ourselves across all these different areas that builders typically bleed profit. Okay. Introducing adaptive draw as a solution to these problems. Okay. Again, I think like kind of the immediate value that our clients see with draws is how fast it is, how simple it is. We will go over this, but there's essentially a queue of all of your unbilled costs that have been categorized to projects. So you can simply do a select all, add to draw, throw in your markup, export draw. That's like truly the motion. Okay. But that prevents you from missing costs. You can pull in costs automatically. All of your labor, all of your expenses, all of your build, subcontractor, and material invoices. Very user friendly, meaning your clients have a very easy to digest draw package. Something that we hear commonly from our clients that run our draws is I don't get pushback from my clients the way that I used to with my draw packages in Excel. Okay, so it's very easy, it's very clear, it creates a lot of alignment between the builder and the customer. The real-time visibility is great for you guys because you can start to see where you're, encroaching on blowing a budget, and you can have those conversations with clients a lot earlier. But then you can also start including your lien waivers, and you can run approvals through this as well. Okay, which again, it depends on where you're at and if you're using lien waivers, but that's typically a component of draw packages. Okay. So we want you guys to have that clear audit trail from cost to client, real-time budget and billing clarity, and then the seamless bill to draw workflow. Now, I've been talking a lot. Daniel, do you have anything to add in here before we start
No,
jumping in?
no, I think you did a great job. I would definitely encourage, like, if you guys have questions, certainly, stop us while I'm going through the demo. I have a tendency to monologue, right? Or talk a little much. So yeah, feel free to stop us during the demo. If you have questions, if you have specific scenarios, happy to go over them. We're going to try to touch on each piece, going into billing items, marking them as billable, and then certainly transferring them to draws. Yes, Olivia, you will have access to the recording afterwards. We will upload it in the Help Center underneath our webinars tab. Cool.
Beautiful.
All right,
D, I flipped it over to you.
Yeah, no problem. So the first thing I wanted to talk about when you go into here is just like, honestly, the basis of it, marking items as billable to use for these draws. So number one, if you go to your initials in the top right, click on settings, and we go to general, you obviously have these defaults. Do you want to make all bill line items billable, right? If you're operating cost plus, that's something you're going to want to turn on. You can always individually select certain lines or select certain bills that you don't want to mark as billable. And then same option for receipts. So do you want to mark all receipt line items as billable? Do you only want to mark individual ones? Again, if you go into any of these bills, I'm just going to filter by my project here. You click into one of these bills. Like I said, as soon as it gets processed, if you have that default on, it'll mark each of these line items as billable. You can certainly uncheck that for specific ones. You could uncheck, multiple and mass if you wanted to. But essentially, this is what's going to trigger what line items you're actually billing for. Reese, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So essentially, guys, this billable check mark is what is going to be filling that queue that I was talking about of those costs. Okay, so think of that as like the trigger when we are marking everything as billable. It's this decision-making path of like, are the majority of my costs that I'm running through going to be billable costs? And then for my, say, overhead that I might not be billing to the client, I would just deselect. It's like a reducing clicks decision-making path. But the second piece is that's going to push into QuickBooks as well. Okay.
Yep.
So that billable check mark is going, when you sync this bill to QuickBooks, that billable check mark is going to push into QuickBooks as well. So you can keep a very clean list of billable cost in QuickBooks, non-billable cost in QuickBooks, as well as billable and non-billable cost in Adaptive. Go ahead, D.
Yep. Yeah, no problem. And I'll show you how to do this from the specific job level, right? But you can always check multiple bills or filter by specific job, no matter which bucket you're in. Same thing with receipts, same thing with timesheets. You can go through and use our mass actions to actually mark, all bills or all time activities or all receipts as billable at one time. Again, you can certainly individually select it, but quick way to do that if you didn't have that default set previously. Go ahead, Reese.
This is one just for the listeners here. I'm curious, just type me in the chat if you're actively using the bulk action property update field, because that's kind of like a pro tip and adaptive for mass categorizing, mass marking as bills, mass allocating to jobs. And I'm just curious how many of you guys are actually using that select all property. So go ahead and type in the chat. Me, I am. I will now.
Yeah,
We
there's a
go
lot of
nice.
options. There's a lot of options, not only for, marking items as billable. Let's say you're changing cost codes or adjusting from chart of accounts and getting more granular at the cost code level. Easy way to do that in mass. You can't often do that in QuickBooks. There's not a lot of mass actions that you can do. You can do those in adaptive, and again, two-way sync with QuickBooks, so it will update in QuickBooks as well.
Love it. Yeah, it's just kind of like a just a pro tip.
Cool. Perfect. So like I said, you could do the same thing in receipts. You could do the same thing in your time shifts. Again, if you wanted to use a combination of filters by cost code, by job, you can use your mass actions as well to mark them as billable directly from here. Okay. I'm going to go to the job now, right? And a couple things just to note here, right? This is obviously our budget screen, but you're going to see this drawn to date. You can basically see any previous invoices or essentially what you charged for, what you've added on previous draws. Just to mention while I'm here, when you go to settings, little tie back to our previous webinar for time clock activity, you can set your billable rates for your time clock activities right in the settings of your job. Now let's go in and build a draw. Okay, so we have all those items that we marked as billable on the front end. We're going to go to draws. We can see any previous draw that we might have created. I'm going to just create a brand new one and show you this bucket that Reese was referencing. When you first build a draw, right, you have this option to link costs. What that's going to do is it's going to pull up all of your billable items that have not been included on previous draws. So ideally, you add your billable items. Then when the next draw comes around, for that billing cycle, it'll only pull up those items. If they have been added previously to draws, they're actually going to be marked as has been billed, and we will not let you duplicate those costs. Another advantage of adaptive, just making sure that you're not double entering them. You'll see this is grayed out. I'm clicking as hard as I can, and it's not going to populate on this draw. Okay. So from here, we're going to click link cost. Like I said, ideally you pull all of these in. You can pick and choose certain ones if you don't want to include those. I'm just going to take out a couple of these time activities, but then we're going to add this in here. And boom, all your costs are on this draw, all your backup documentation, all the descriptions coming directly from those bills or from those line items specifically. If you have, any markup on those time clock labor, it'll automatically, the billable rate will populate over. And then from here, this is where we can add our markup. Before I add our markup in here, I did want to point out one other thing that's very common. You click add cost to the draw. Let's say you have to do it afterwards. There's no longer that, big green link cost button. You can click add to draw, use cost. And then from here, again, you have all these filters available, right? So you can filter by specific cost codes, specific vendors, specific date ranges. I think ideally, right, it's everything from your last billable cycle or billing cycle, and you can pull in everything. You can also, if you notice that something's not here and you're like, where is that cost? You can actually exit out of here, see some items that are not billable, right, that you might have missed or that you didn't mark as billable the first time. You can go through here and actually mark them as billable right from this screen. Okay, and they will now populate on the new section if you were to add cost. Again, by default, we're pulling up your billable items. Now we see those time activities populate in this bucket.
One piece just to highlight, which is pretty standard and adaptive. If you do make that adjustment that Daniel just showed as marking cost that wasn't originally marked as billable, but is now marked as billable, that will mark it as billable on the invoice in adaptive, and it will mark that line item as billable in QuickBooks. Okay. So again, this is just more of like reminder that it will be keeping everything in sync and reconciled on those adjustments. Okay.
Yep.
Steve Minton has a good question. Can time clock labor be sorted by date? When he brings it in, it takes on a random order. It's not chronological.
Yeah, I would say when you're adding costs, number one, you could sort by date if you wanted to. You could also filter by just time clock activities and then filter by a certain date range. Either way will work, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, Steve, if this is like a common use case for your time clock labor, I would definitely throw in the type, and then do your date sort or filter. If Let us know if that landed. Lee can adapt to do G702, 703 type invoicing. We are getting there.
Yeah,
But
she's beating us to the punch.
that's right. That's right. Okay, go for it, D.
Cool. So a couple other things just about this draw. You can sync it to QuickBooks at this point. It'll send over an unpaid invoice to QuickBooks with the same line items, marking those items, has been billed. From here, I would say what's most common is to export this draw. But before we go through these options, I did just want to show you underneath this summary, if you go right here, this is where you can fill out a lot of the information that you might want to be included on this draw. So, draw title, contract date, project date. Again, as Lee mentioned, this is going to be more AIA style billing. By default, you can just include your terms and conditions. You don't necessarily need to include all this information. When you do go to export the draw, we're going to ask you, do you want just a simple cover page, which I'll show you, or do you want an AIA style summary? Okay, which, as you mentioned, Lee, is a G702, G703 type invoice.
Can you download both real quick, D? Or I don't want to get in front of your flow here, but I think you should do one of each so they can see the difference.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to download the cover page first, and then just have that off to the side, and then I'll do it for AIA billing too.
Sweet.
While we're waiting for this to download, both of those, if we have any questions, I think this would be a great time to address these.
For sure. Well, and we've got Peter. Peter asked, we have our billable rates per employee in QuickBooks. Does this now pull that info for billing labor?
It does not. We're just going to pull over your hours directly to Adaptive. Again, quick plug for our time activity webinar and our labor tracking video in the Help Center. But you can set your cost directly in Adaptive so that populates against your original budget. You can see your time clock labor. But then you can also set a billable rate per job, or even copy that billable rate over to multiple projects to populate that billable rate. But we do not pull over that cost or that billable rate directly from QuickBooks.
Peter asked, will we? Assuming
I'm not positive. I'm not positive, but that's definitely feedback that we can give them.
Here, I will, Peter, I guess, are you familiar with our current labor the way that it is now? Okay, cool. So you're familiar with it. Peter, we can, of course, we'll chat through this because we're always iterating on the product. We can connect offline and go a little bit deeper into the scope of what you would need. And we can obviously file this with product. But essentially, our current labor solution is our first version of labor. So I imagine that's going to get more robust and change over time. So we definitely want your
feedback. Seriously, guys, we welcome feedback, right? We want to take your legitimate feedback and try to implement it as quickly as possible. Certainly for new features like time clock labor, WIP reporting, cost plus draws. I'm going to show you this export now. So I exported two versions. I exported one with a simple cover page. I also exported one, an AIA style summary. You'll see a couple other options in here that we'll go over. But essentially, you have the option to summarize this particular invoice by line item. So if you just want it, by cost code with that data, you can also summarize it by vendor. So if you have multiple costs underneath one vendor, it'll, show you how much you're spending for that particular vendor. You can include change orders, and then obviously the most popular feature, having your transaction backups directly included on the draw. Racer?
Totally. And guys, I just always like to emphasize here, we're going to show you everything that's been checked here. Certain builders, certain scenarios, they don't want to show changes, or they don't want to show transaction backup, or they just have a client that wants to see an update of where they're at from a billing standpoint. So they'll just pop a draw schedule really quick. Just know that you can select, deselect all of this information. Okay. So what we show you isn't just the have to export. Okay. Now, The second piece is with this period by line item and then this period by vendor. This period by vendor is very commonly used and is a great solution for builders that are working with title companies that are paying subcontractors and vendors on their behalf. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if you're sitting out there, and I know Minnesota's big on this, I think Wisconsin is, maybe Washington. There are several states that it's really common for title companies to be paying on behalf of general contractors. So this is a great solution to bucket those costs by vendor, so then the title company has a clean invoice organized by who are they paying what, and then they can drill in, which Daniel's going to show you on what are these invoices, what are these costs to validate, and then they'll pay.
Yeah. And I do want to be clear on something too. Per job, it's going to save your preferences. So, let's say for a particular job, you don't want to share changes or you don't want to share transaction backup. You can basically uncheck that box, and then on future draws, it'll remain unchecked until you decide to, move forward and start using that or not. Okay.
Think of it like it's just an autosave. Go ahead.
Yep, you got it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show the simple cover page. It looks like this. So you have your terms and conditions. We can put your logo up here, make it look nice and pretty. Total payment due. If you scroll down, right, this is going to break down per period. And this is the summary I was talking about per vendor, right? So you could have it just show particular line items, sort by, the actual cost code itself. But I choose to summarize it by vendor just to, show that piece of it. The big benefit of this, and really the wow moment for a lot of our customers, is let's say we're curious where this $22,250 comes from. If you see these page 5, these are actually hyperlinks. So if we want to see where this cost is coming from, we just click on page 5, pulls us right to that invoice. Okay. So all these transactions are going to be stored on the back of this invoice on the same PDF. And they can easily go through, whether it's a client, an architect, title company, as you mentioned, you can go through and basically click right on the page, pulls you directly to that invoice, providing that level of detail. Okay. Going through this, again, you have all the line items broken down. And then if you scroll down, you'll also have your draw schedule. So essentially, what did you predict to spend? Any adjustments? Those two columns added together gives you a revised budget. What you previously charged that client, what you're charging for on this particular invoice, total completed to date, and then percent complete for each of these line items. You'll notice as we scroll down, we highlight what you're charging for on that particular invoice. Okay, so although we're sharing the whole budget, it's going to highlight what you're charging for on that invoice as you scroll through this budget, and then even give you a percent complete over here on the right. How are we feeling about this process? Does it seem pretty simple?
This goes up to Lee, the G702, 703 type invoice. Lee, I'd like to hear your feedback on that. Aaron just asked, what is the material stored column? I've never needed to use it. Aaron, that's more for like the true reflection of a G702, 703. Daniel, you can show that one, but that's essentially going to include your material stored column. It's going to show retainage that you may have tracked. Obviously, you can see that the top page is more reflective of that G702 document, and then the G703 at the bottom is going to have more columns as well.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, I can export one with retainage, but we would have a separate column for retainage if you needed to go that way. I think the important piece here is certainly the G702 style document with the application for payment. Again, you have flexibility. If you need to add signature lines for an architect or the contractor, whatever you need, you can include that directly on here. But we are going to give you this application for payment and break down the same columns that are shown on that G702.
Beautiful. Lee seems excited. Can everyone give Lee a little clap in the chat? This is great. I always love I always love these full circle moments. Lee, if you want to go through this a little bit deeper, or you need some help on putting your first draw together, let us know. But I'm glad to see that this solution works for you. Cool. A lot of support. Look at this. There's just a big happy family. We love it.
Yeah. I did have another piece that I just wanted to share before we get into more Q&A or additional features here. If you're operating with Cost Plus, we do have a couple features that can help you on individual jobs and then overall across all projects. So number one, we do have this option to configure the tables that you have in your budget. This is basically just customizing what you want to be shown. An additional column that we have is undrawn costs. So if you're operating at a Cost Plus method, this will basically show any items that are billable that have not been added to draws yet, right? So you can go through and basically be able to review your actual costs versus what you have not charged the client for just yet. Okay. Now this is on a job level, right? For this particular project, we also have a built-in custom report that I can share for undrawn costs, right? And that'll look across the entire company, right? Or you can filter by specific jobs, filter by specific dates. You can group it by project. But it's a great way to basically run a report and see how you guys stand on all your cost plus projects.
Love
Okay.
it. Love it.
Cool.
We've got Lee chomping at the bit, wanting to know if we can do whip. I think we can do whip. Can we do whip, Daniel?
Yeah, like, do
We
we
can
want
do
to cover
whip.
WIP
I'm
in
just
general?
kidding. Yeah. I was
I
just
was
kidding.
like,
Yes, Lee, we just rolled out our whip function. I think we can dabble in whip a little bit here, but Mel, do we have a whip webinar coming up? A little whip webby?
We were planning on reporting in December.
Beautiful. Okay, Lee, you're gonna have to come back in December for the full whippage. But I mean, we're a month away, so that'll be coming. Also, guys, there's a lot of content we like have a dedicated tile in our help center for whip. This is a long way of saying, Lee, yes, we have whip reporting. Jared is seeing the benefit of the undrawn cost column for forecasting, which is huge. And I love that we added that to that budget. That is a new add. Daniel, can you go ahead and pop open the AP screen and then go over to waiting for payment? Because this is even more like, okay, so this is great, guys, from a project management, leadership, owners perspective in the budgeting. But also, guys, and this is more for like our bookkeepers, office management, people that are in charge of staying on pay tracks and pay schedules for subs and vendors. Again, do not sleep on our filters. You can go ahead and jump into filter and then the draw status. And again, this is from the AP side. So if you're sitting here and you're like, I got these bills that I need to be paid. I'm curious if we have the income to cover these bills and you're running like a very rigid pay when paid model. You can go ahead and pop one of these in and you can just do like, I don't know, link to unpaid draw or not link to a draw. And that'll show and surface here are all of the bills that are linked to an unpaid draw. What does that mean? We need to get on the clients and get some cheese in the bank account, right? They need to cut us a check. Go ahead, Daniel.
nothing. I was really just gonna say, like, obviously you can see that at bird's eye view, and then as you scroll through and you're looking at these, right? I do want to highlight, just it'll tell you if it's linked to a draw. So whether the draw's been paid or it's unpaid, it'll show you what it's linked to, and then you can always open the link draw directly from here. It'll pop it open another tab in your internet. It's just really nice for continuity and making sure that essentially it reflects the same exact way. And then another plug, like if you were to adjust the description, if you were to adjust, the cost code, it'll ask you, do you want to update the draw as well? So again, you're being consistent with your job costing compared to charging the client on your draws as well.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Jared
Cool.
wants to see more forecasting. I do too. I would see
Yeah,
a
I
forecasting
think that
module.
reporting webinar is going to be killer. One last thing I will say, just in terms of like what people usually need for draws, and something we're going to be including in the future, is right now you can basically go to all your bills. You can filter by status. You can filter if they're connected to a draw. And then you can also filter by lien waivers. I just wanted to mention that very briefly because it was in our slideshow. You can filter and find all your signed lien waivers, and then quickly, for a particular job, download all of those into one PDF, right? Or a zip file with the lien waiver and the signature on those. And either, include it with your draw package or download it separately just for your records. That is going to be something we're going to give you the option to include by default in draws moving forward. Okay. We have not built that yet. So I just want to make sure that I cover that. If you are looking for lien waivers for a particular job, you can obviously go to the all in the bill screen, filter by lien waiver status, filter by that project, and then download in mass. Okay.
Cool. Love it. Jumana, of course, and Daniel's really doing the razzle dazzling here. But that's great. I'm glad this is helpful. Christy has a question. Christy started building draws without transactions linked. Can she go back and link a transaction later? She's made a little bit of a mess for herself. Colin's helping her, but she was wondering if there's a quick fix.
Yeah, I mean, the way that you would do that is you would basically go back into that particular draw, right? You would find the line item, and then you could go and click the option to add cost. I would say the real caveat on that is whether the draw has been paid or not. if it's been paid and you go make an adjustment and relink a new cost to it, it'll essentially unassociate the payment in QuickBooks. So you would then, after you make all your adjustments, you'd make sure it syncs to QuickBooks, it reflects correctly, and then you would reassociate the payment directly with that invoice. I know that was a lot of steps, but happy to walk through it. Christy, I know we've worked together before. Happy to talk to Colin about that situation, provide him the answer so he can walk you through it.
Lovely. Sweet. I think that's draws. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's a shorter webinar than usual, but I would also say that's a positive because it shows you how quick it is to build these draws, shows you how easy it is to mark items by default as billable. Again, you can use our filters to do things in mass. Pretty easy to start implementing. It's not like a lot of background work. Christy, you mentioned, you can have, sort of a mess on your hands if you haven't been doing it, the correct way from the jump. But it's very easy to fix if you go through our software. And then again, just a quick plug for our CS team. Absolutely love our support team and our account managers. Feel free to reach out to them. You each have a dedicated account manager that's happy to hop on a Zoom and walk you through this after the recording as well.
Totally. I lost my train of thought. Doesn't matter. Okay, so we can. Is there a labor integration webinar in the help menu?
Yeah,
there is.
I'll send it in the chat right now.
There is. Okay, I'm getting my. There we go. Okay, the before and after. And guys, again, don't be shy. If you got questions, let them rip in the comment section. Not the Q&A section. I think we're doing a pretty good job on that. Mel, do we have any stragglers in the Q&A? Are we good? Okay, we're good. Make sure to pump these in through the comments. As I'm going over kind of like the rest of this like slide deck information, I know that we did have a lot of people that are trying draws for the first time. I'd be curious to know, has this webinar been helpful enough to promote some action for you guys and start leveraging draws? And it looks like we do have some questions popping in. I'm just going to huff through this before and after. Essentially, before and after draws, we spent a ton of time, a ton of manual process, a ton of error-prone opportunity for us to miss costs, reflect it erroneously in Excel sheets, miss backup documentation, and now it is very automated. It is very clean. It is very thoughtful of, I am touching this invoice on the front end of the process and I know that it's billable, and once it's approved, I want to get that to the client. I can select it, export it, send it, right? So essentially, we're just being much more thoughtful in the steps that are happening and preventing these duplications from happening as well. Here's some real results from our users, guys. And these builders are all very active. I think we've done case studies with every single one of them. Mel, can you post our case studies in the chat? Because I think that you've done a really good job with them, and B, they're really, really compelling and applicable. But essentially, Brad Bean over at Beanco in Dallas, every 2 weeks, he and his team spent nearly a full day creating draw packages. Now with Adaptive, they're cutting out that full day and turning it into minutes, which again, we shortened the timeline on understanding our cost, shortened our timeline on getting that cost billed to the client. We are now effectively on a much shorter timeline running a healthier cash flowing business. That's what Brad saw. Same thing with Matt Brill over at Bow & Build out of Boulder, Colorado. He was assembling client draws, stitching together data across multiple spreadsheets, multiple project management softwares, multiple Dropbox files. And now they've saved 25 hours a month on draw prep alone. That sounds a lot like a part-time employee that they're saving there, they're reallocating elsewhere in the business. And then we have Per Pedersen over at LinMac. He was actually on one of our webinars, and he's been on one of our podcasts, and he's done one of our case studies. But essentially, he's seen the same thing. He's a builder up in Washington, I believe the SeaTac area, and he's cut the same thing, guys. It's like just days to hours, days to minutes. So that's the entire thing. And Mel, I actually just realized that you have the success stories plugged in there. Look at you, just thinking ahead. I love it. Okay, few clicks, days, we get it. The next webinar, guys, is actually getting a builder in to showcase how to do draws and how they do it in their business. November 19th, 11 a.m. Central. Save it on your calendars. Again, you'll see these registration links pop through in your inbox through Intercom in the product. But we would love to have you in. Obviously, these are an absolute riot with you guys. You're super engaged, super interactive. We love it. So we'll see you on the 19th, actually going over how one of our clients has simplified their draw process. We are now at the Q&A, and chats have been flying in, and Daniel has been covering them. Thank you, sir. But I always like to go over them verbally. Okay.
I do want to call on
Go ahead.
on Jared or Aaron at this point, just because
Yeah.
this isn't something that I'm aware of. So I just want to make sure that we're like clear and we understand what we need to fix. They've mentioned that QB default settings for invoices when they're linked. For example, we sync these cost plus invoices, so it syncs over to QuickBooks as an unpaid invoice, but it doesn't keep the setting of pay by ACH as a default. So maybe we can call on Jared, or maybe you can let us know in the chat.
Can we get Jared on the call?
What does he mean?
Mel, can we do that? Can we get Jared on the audio here? Here we are. All right, Jared, you're live.
Fellas,
How are we?
good. How are y'all?
Dude, we're doing well. We're doing well.
Hey,
Let's hear it. Let's break it down.
Thanks, man. This is great. This is a move in the absolute best direction. So thanks for putting up with some of these little tweaks. What I was just saying is, so when we sync it to QuickBooks, the invoicing section in QuickBooks, you pull up sales, go to invoices, it lists your invoices. And then I've noticed I've had to go over to the right-hand side where it has some settings. And I've actually forgot a couple of times because I had it set as a default previously. But in order for my clients to pay, we have a link that we email out. So it's like, click here, pay. They just enter their ACH, it gets paid. What I've noticed is the invoice doesn't come from Adaptive into QuickBooks and keep those defaults. So it's not automatically allowing my clients to pay via ACH as a default setting in QuickBooks.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. I definitely want to look into that more, right? Because we should be keeping any defaults as you have in QuickBooks. So I'll definitely bring it up with our product and engineering team. Sure. Do you have it overall set as a default in your accounts and settings, or is it listed somewhere else?
Yeah, no. And then when I go into the defaults, it does show it as being toggled on. Yeah. So something is not holding that default.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Thanks, man.
Well, yeah, we'll definitely look into it. Like I said, and then I got your email that you CC'd me on just now, or I guess 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Look at that. People
Cool.
just helping people.
I know. I love it. This is great. I love it. Okay. And Peter, and this could be, I want to use draws, but until the labor cost and billing rates are pulled from QuickBooks, we're going to do it. We are going to do it. I don't want to double enter labor costs, makes sense, and billing rates and Adaptive and keep track of what has been entered there. Let's see. Here we go. Daniel at the bottom. Peter, do you feel like it's too long of a process? Yeah, I'm just curious. So, Peter, it sounds like, and maybe we can get you on, Peter. But I'm just thinking, so your labor isn't pulling into time activities, because that's essentially what our labor solution is our labor solution is pulling in the hours by the user in QuickBooks into Adaptive. And then that's where you have your cost rate and then your billable rate, which is going to populate your billable. And it doesn't sound like that's where your labor cost is pulling into QuickBooks. Daniel, am I missing something?
No, I mean, I definitely understand where he's coming from. I think it would be certainly helpful if he has billable rates or cost rates set in QuickBooks to automatically pull those over. But I do feel like it's a pretty quick setup just in terms of setting your cost rate in their profile, backdating it to however long you want it to be, and then setting the billable rates for one job and being able to copy that over to every single project. I don't know if there's a large difference or if there's anything involved with labor burden or what it might be. So that's why I would want to speak to him directly or hop on a Zoom meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can set a different billable rate per employee, Peter. Again, like I know setting it that first time, it could be frustrating. Reese, stop sharing your screen if you would for a second.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Come on, man.
Let me do this.
Just
Edie. Go ahead.
So number one, just to show you, like, you can set your billable rate per employee, right? So that's not a problem. You can do it by code. You can do it by, a singular rate overall. You can set it by employee, and then you can also copy it from a previous job. So that's what I was essentially mentioning is like, once you set it once, you can copy it over every single project. You shouldn't have to do it multiple times. And then as far as cost and not just billable rate, you go into your employee profile, and then you can essentially set their cost rate that one time and backdate it to whenever you wanted it to start. So it'll backdate to all those previous shifts with the direct cost. I know that might take 10 or 15 minutes to set that up, but hopefully you're only doing that one time.
I think it's worth sitting down, Peter, with your point and adaptive, and we can set this up with you. And again, if we're missing context, we could certainly cover that on a training.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it sounds like this is like a pretty straightforward way for us to help us, and at the very least, understand the context that we're missing.
For sure.
Okay. Sweet. We've got. Ariel, I would like to see in the people tab that it has cost and billable rate per employee, and if it pulls from QuickBooks, that would be best. We don't change them per job. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful. And Mel, we get all these comments. Is that right? So that we can divvy this out. Beautiful. Okay. Sweet. Cool. I'm just going
I
through.
think just another question overall. Obviously we're focusing on draws in this particular one, and then I think we're going to do one on reporting soon. But for the people who are still here, what other webinars would you like to see? What topics would you like to cover? What do you think would be most helpful for your business? Would it be getting more, clients on to talk about their experience and what they're using to be successful? Would it be more on the forecasting and reporting side of things? Would it be on WIP reports? Feel free to share anything, because we're obviously planning our webinars for Q1 in 2026 and trying to make sure that they're relevant and helpful for you guys.
Totally. Webinars from client super users. Bang. Forecasting budgets and updates. Lien waivers, definitely WIP. Maybe more stuff on budgets. Okay. WIP for sure. Love it.
We should just get old Matt C to come in here and talk about WIP a little bit.
Yeah.
Get it going.
WIP it good. A little Devo.
We'll have to get the hats
Cool.
and everything.
Yeah, exactly. We love the WIP. Yeah, it's actually cool. I was in Vegas this week at Intuit Connect, and we were showing off the WIP reporting with a bunch of accountants, and they were stoked.
Nice.
So I definitely think that's one that we should highlight and prioritize. Love it. Forecasting, we can export to Excel, but hoping to get that feature. Second on forecasting, a lot of forecasting. Okay. Yeah, I think the WIP is going to be. Go ahead.
I think to follow from Intuit Connect and then Build Show Live, and then certainly hearing all this feedback, it's WIP is extremely important, right? And I don't think you can get an accurate report from a lot of softwares right now. So I think that's great that we're not only addressing that, but also making it a collaboration where you can comment on it, interact with each other, have records, whether you're doing financial team meetings individually with project managers or individually with your CFO, whatever it might be. We're definitely noticing that this is more of a process than just a report that you're going to pull.
Totally. And I think that's one thing is when we think about WIP, we were getting a lot of good feedback from the accountant persona, which the accountant persona has similar but different needs and desired outcomes than the operations side of the house. And how we've built the tool is to accommodate both. I think the most exciting things for the operations side is we're real-time populating WIP, and certainly won't push back if this doesn't land. But essentially, because we're real-time populating WIP, you as a business owner and as an operations team can now build in WIP review on a weekly or bi-weekly basis in your project management meetings. And you can start leaving action items and highlighting these errors that are throwing off WIP in real time with your team. So then when you are, from the accounting persona standpoint, leveraging WIP to reconcile, update entries, and close out books, you're now looking at a 2 to 4 time reviewed WIP report at the end of the month. So it's just, again, it's like bringing the seamlessness up on a more regular basis, because it's not this huge daunting task of we have to create WIP, or I only get WIP once a quarter. It's like now we can start using it on a real-time basis from an operations standpoint. So Lee, WIP has been my Achilles heel over the years, so a process where that will help will be huge. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Beautiful. Yeah. Okay. So we need to get WIP. We need to get WIP on here. WIP forecasting. I did see Jumana, how to make workers' comp audits easier, pulling info. Sweet. That's another big one. Yeah. Guys, we appreciate you all. Again, the engagement is what makes this fun. So, and again, it sounds like you guys really like hearing from the super users, which I think is great feedback. That's essentially what we wanted to validate in our first, call it, half dozen webinars. So this is perfect. And if any of you like feel really strongly, like we'd love to hear from you and like bring up the opportunity to get you on a webinar if that's your speed. So again, don't be scared. You can obviously find us at our email addresses. I'll pull this back up. You can also, I'm very active on Instagram and LinkedIn. So you guys can reach out to me in my DMs on Instagram, which is at Adaptive Reese, REECE. Obviously email.
I do have to tell you guys, it's an absolute must follow. He's electric. He's funny. Talks about the industry. Quick plug, just because he won't talk about it himself, but he really is a great follow and it's really funny.
Cheers. Authenticity. When's the Austin Adaptive Happy Hour? Jared, okay, so I actually in the early days did one at old Don's Depot. Are you familiar with Don's Depot? Mel is.
Get down
Mel
there to
knows.
Austin.
Dude, Don's is an absolute national treasure. That was, I think, like, frankly, like our first ever happy hour. But no, Jared, I haven't been down to Austin in a minute, and that's where we were like our essentially like founding client base was. So I'm gonna have to get back down there. And Mel, yeah, Mel splits her time between Costa Rica and Austin, and her husband, Jared, if you don't know this, owns Foresight Studio. He's doing really quality stuff. So you might even know AJ. Who is also an adaptive user, which is why Mel is exceptional at her role. She just lives and breathes construction. Cool. Sweet, everybody. Thank you so much. I think this is the first one where we didn't go over. So we can just leave the chat open. You guys can trickle out as you see fit, and we'll just see you on the 19th.
Appreciate the time, everybody. Reese, do you always go black coffee?
Always.
Time?
Yeah.
Love it. Me too.
Yeah. It's like 1 out of every 100. I'll throw a latte in there, iced latte.
Yeah, I was about to say. I think this weekend it started to get chilly in Omaha, so we got ourselves a nice little latte.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just the frou-frou, like, I'm just not a big sweets guy. The Starbucks cold brew has my heart.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. I don't know.
Cool.
Sweet. All right. Takeaways, Terry. We're getting the note takers in here.
Wait, hold on. Let me message Sabrina back here because she asked about previous recordings, so we'll just share that again.
This is my first webinar. It was very helpful. Is there a way to access recordings? Yes, Sabrina, of course. Daniel's going to be chatting you, but you can also just go to the help center on our website or in your adaptive account. Daniel just posted the link, Sabrina. There's a lot of good information in there. So Sabrina, as you are messing around adaptive, don't be shy. Click around. Clicks are free. That's like the most clicker heavy component of adaptive is our help center. Everything else is going to be low click. Low click. We got to coin that. Low click.
Erica, Caitlin, Will Hoyt, Shelly Rourke, all former clients. Love to speak to you guys again if you have time.
Yes. 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 Wait. Did I see, did you say Caitlin Wilhoit?
Yep.
Love it. Yeah. Yeah, I actually just took a picture and sent it to Caitlin Wilhoit with, I think it's someone that she's considering for books.
Oh, nice.
Great team. Yeah. Wilhoit
Yeah, then
Krill.
we'll probably see Erica. I think she's out of San Antonio. So we'll be there next year for Build Show Live.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Alrighty. Well, I have a meeting in 4 minutes, so I'm gonna have to pop. But
Cool.
cool. Appreciate it, everybody. Thank you so much. Don't be strangers. We'll see you on the 19th.
See y'all.
Bye.